What's good? This is Trey, and the topic of this video is how I lost my virginity. And no, this video is not a joke. I'm actually gonna say how I lost my virginity, what the process was, and all of that, so you can kind of see that things don't always go how you think. Like you might be thinking like I may have lost my virginity, like maybe in high school or middle school, whatever. It wasn't until I was like in my mid 20s, like 24, 23, around there. That's when I lost my virginity. But I'll explain um you know how we got into that, like how I got to that point. Right, so basically middle school, high school, um those are like usually when a lot of people, at least it seems that way, a lot of people, they'll lose their virginity during those times, right? Because that's when you kind of experiment and stuff and shit happens, whatever. With me, I believe it could have happened because there was girls who were showing interest in me. But the thing is, um, I would resist the energy that they would bring to me, right? Because I didn't have the confidence. I was afraid of what might happen, right? Because I was religious, right? I was a Christian, so I kind of had the thing in my head like, oh, you're not really supposed to have sex before marriage. So I wasn't really, although I wouldn't go around telling people that, I wasn't really into the whole vibe of, oh yeah, what it's whatever, right? You just do it and it's no big deal. I thought it was a big deal. So when girls would show interest, I would kind of back off because I didn't want to be put in a situation where, one thing leads to another, and then I'm in this situation, I can't get out of it. Because I know rumors will be spread, right? If I am a guy and a girl is like throwing herself at me and it gets to a sexual point and I back off, what they gonna say? Oh, he's a pussy, or oh, he was afraid of the girl, or whatever, right? And then the rumor goes, and then I have to deal with that. And I was just smart enough to know I'm not gonna deal with that. So instead, I would just put up a resistance, and I make it seem, when a girl would show interest, I make it seem like I didn't care or wasn't that interested, which wasn't the case, because there were some attractive girls that were interested in me in high school, but I didn't make any moves, right? So got out of high school and didn't lose my virginity, right? So not that I was trying to lose it, but part of me was like, man, because all my friends pretty much they would talk about like their sexual experiences and stuff, and I would have to like kind of just like laugh it off or whatever, and make it sound like I was doing my thing. But reality was I wasn't, I didn't really have any experiences with that. So kind of was just, my thing was I kind of just wanted a girlfriend or whatever. Thought that would be cool. So when I left high school, I started like going and doing what they call cold approach pickups. So like basically going into like different places and trying to pick up girls, right? Going and talking to them and like random girls that I don't know, right? And basically not knowing, maybe I did kind of know, but now looking back, really all I was doing was working on my confidence with women, right? I was working on my communication skills, my ability to, set the right frame when I'm communicating to a woman, my social freedom, self-esteem, all these things. I was working on those things through talking to women and meeting women, because you have to deal with girls saying no to you, right? I don't really like using the word rejection, but yeah, you have to deal with basically things not working out or whatever. And but you also have some successes, and you get to see what works and what doesn't work. So you start to build some character. You start to get some references, some experiences in life. And specifically for me is like, these experiences were with women. So like that area of my life was getting better, right? But I had a lot of work to do because I didn't have much experience in middle school, high school. So, I was approaching girls or whatever in the daytime, at grocery stores, at the mall. I was in college, so on a college campus. And, it was whatever. But nothing really led to anything serious. Like the most I get is like numbers and stuff. I'm not even sure if I was going on dates. I think maybe I was, maybe a date here and there. And I kept doing that. But in the back of my head, there was always this resistance because of my religion, right? I knew that I wasn't really trying to take it to a sexual level. And I believe my demeanor and the way I looked, right? Because I was tall, black, muscular, whatever, kind of looked aggressive. I think I was giving off the vibe that I was, a dude that probably would, be into sex or want to take it there. But the reality was I didn't. So I kept doing whatever, approaching women, talking to women, whatever. And, throughout those years, at some point I kind of started doing my research on religion and stuff like that. And I got to a point where I was kind of, I don't think this is for me. I don't think I really believe in this stuff anymore because, for my own personal reasons. So basically I dropped my religion and I just became a spiritual being, right? I just believed that there is some form of creator, there's some creator, and, we kind of we have the choice to just live how we want to live, right? We can make that choice and decide how we want to live. If you want to be in a religion, you can. If you don't have to, right? And that's just what it is. Once I got to that point, freed me up, right? Now I was like, okay, you know what? This whole waiting until marriage thing, like, that's dead. Like, I'm not doing that. I'm not thinking about that anymore because I'm no longer locked into a religion telling me exactly how to live. So now when I'm approaching women, guess what? It starts going better because now I'm sexually free and I can communicate better, right? More genuine and embracing my sexuality and stuff like that. So women responding better, cool. Then I start hitting the clubs, right? My boys, my friends I grew up with in high school and stuff, they were already in the clubs, but I wasn't because of my religion. Started going to the clubs and I was like, oh, this is cool too. The women are already there, they're in a social mood. They're drinking and stuff like that. So it's fun, right? It's really fun. And I enjoyed it. Like I would go and I would dance and I would, to meet women and all this stuff would happen. And it'd be a vibe. Like, pretty much every time I go out. And I'd get a bunch of numbers and stuff. One thing I noticed, I would get a lot of numbers, but they wouldn't lead anywhere, which was strange to me at first. But once I realized why that was, then it was like, okay, basically these girls are giving out their numbers, but it's like, they don't have to text you back. They don't have to call you back the next day, right? You're just another guy or whatever. So I started to realize that, whatever. But I kept working on my game, kept improving myself, didn't give up, whatever. But, it was I remember starting to get to a point where I was getting a lot of numbers. I started making out with girls and a bunch of stuff would happen. But once we left the club, the energy would change, right? I wouldn't get the same communication responses from girls. I was starting to think maybe this shit don't work, But I kept doing it. One day I went out by myself. My boys couldn't come out. And I didn't really feel like going, but I was like, nah, I gotta go. You know what I mean? I know what I want. I know my goal was to get a girlfriend or whatever, and I'm figure out how to make it happen somehow, right? I think I can make it happen with this club, in the club scene somehow, right? So I kept going. And I went one night by myself. I had a great night, whatever. Dancing, just vibing. I think I got a few numbers, whatever. Towards the end of the night, I went up to some girl. I grabbed her hand, I remember, and she turned around, looked at me, and then she started backing it up, basically, shaking her ass and grinding on me, all that stuff. And I was, I'm used to that, so it's like whatever, right? But then when I was like, okay, cool, good vibes, whatever, about to maybe go do something else, she holds onto my hand and won't let go. I'm like, okay. I think that's happened to me before and it didn't lead anywhere. So I was like, oh, same bullshit again, right? But this time she held on to my hand and she was like, oh, she said something like, oh, when I see what I like, I stick with it, or something like that. I remember her saying. But I'm thinking, whatever, girls will say anything in the moment. And then she holds on my hand, she won't let go, whatever. We're vibing or whatever. I think we were talking a little bit. We move around the club. She goes and talks to her friend or whatever. And she's like, oh, take my Snapchat down. I take her Snapchat down, whatever. Chill for a little bit. She goes, I guess, to go talk to her friends. And she's like, oh, don't go anywhere. I'm coming right back. And I'm like, you know what? Let me see. Because I was going to just bounce, right? Because it was towards the end of the club. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here, right? But she was cute. I thought she was attractive or whatever. So I was like, all right, whatever, bro. I'll just wait and see what happens. She comes back and Comes back with her friend and like they're talking, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then she's like, you know what, I'm gonna go home with him. And the friend was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, what? I was like, okay, whatever. And she's like, yeah, I just live around the block or whatever. If you could drop me home, that'd be great. So I was like, okay. So I dropped her home. I was driving her home, but there was a vibe to it. It's like there was a vibe where I knew like, we're probably gonna end up, having sex, right? There was just a vibe, like there's a feeling to it, and you don't even have to really question it too much. You just kind of know. And so it just what it was. She was like, yeah, you can actually come up if you want, whatever. You could sleep over or whatever. Because I think I told her that I live kind of far, and she was like, oh, well, it's no problem. You could sleep over. I was like, whatever, okay. And then basically, so I walked her to her apartment. We went inside. She laid down, I laid down, and then we basically started making out, whatever. And then it started to go to get into like sex, whatever. Like we started touching each other, all that shit. And then it was going into sex. And then me, like, I'm like, oh, fuck, it's about to happen, whatever, right? My first time, right? So I'm like, I'm not going to pussy out this time. Like, this time it's going to happen, right? Because I've had other experiences before where girls were showing interest, like I said, and I would back off. But this time I was like, nah, I'm gonna really go for it. And I was about to basically like, go into it. And she was like, oh, where's the condom? And I was like, oh shit, I almost forgot that you need to use a condom. You know what I mean? Because I was so like, emotional and shit, like, oh, it's finally gonna happen. And then I tried to put the condom on or whatever. And then I remember like, I kind of like was just, I don't know, mentally I just kind of fucked up and just like sort of shut down, right? And then just got really awkward or whatever. And she's like, oh, it's okay, never mind, let's just go to sleep. So went to sleep and then woke up the next morning and like woke up, I saw her, she saw me, laying next to each other, we started making out again. And then this time I handled the business, right? Like I put the condom on properly, all that shit, and lost my virginity, right? And that was an experience, right? Because I feel like I created that, right? I don't feel like I got lucky because there's a lot of things that I did right? I'm kind of like being very humble about it, but there's a lot of things I did right as far as like not resist. The main thing was I didn't resist anything. I kind of just went with the flow. Even when certain things were maybe got a little weird or whatever, I just kept saying, you know what, I'm gonna just vibe, I'm gonna just chill out, I'm gonna just let what happens happen, you know what I mean, and do my part, right? So I was acting like it's not like I was acting like I never got a girl before. I was acting like I had a girl, acting, being confident or whatever, and she probably just thought like, oh, maybe he doesn't think when I basically the first time when I tried to do it and I kind of like lost my erection or whatever, she probably thought like, oh, he probably, maybe he doesn't think I'm that hot or whatever, right? She's thinking that, but what actually was happening was I was just nervous. But anyway, it just kind of worked out, and that's how I lost my virginity, right? So basically for me, it didn't happen easily. I had to like do a lot of shit. I had to work on myself a lot. I had to approach and talk to a lot of women to really make up for my lack of experience in middle school and high school. I had to let go of my religion, which was actually really hard to do. I made it sound like it was easy, but it's really tough letting go of religion that you were raised in, you know what I mean? And you believed in so much, and then for you to get to a point where you're like, I'm not fucking with it no more. It kind of shifts your reality and it kind of shakes you up, but I got through it, made me stronger, made me more free, able to communicate better, and then it led to me losing my virginity. So that's how it happened for me, and that's the end of the story, right? So as always, if you are a guy who is struggling in your dating life and you are looking to improve your dating life, maybe you still haven't lost your virginity, right? And you want to make that happen. Like you want to lose your virginity. You want to start having these experiences with women. Or maybe you have lost your virginity, but you're still underachieving and not getting the results you want in your dating life. Send me a private message. Let's have a conversation. Let's see how I can help you get the results you want. All right. Thanks for watching. Peace.